30 years ago, Somalia was wrecked by famine, civil war and bloodshed. In the middle of the 90s, the Canadian Airborne Regiment touched down in the country as part of a UN humanitarian mission. What happened next destroyed Canada's reputation of being a nation of peacekeepers, shaming its military in the process. This is the Somalia affair, Decoded. "1969 was a seminal year for the world and for Somalia. While Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon, Mohammad Ziad Barre was walking into Mogadishu to take the reins of power, where he'd remain until being forced out in 1991. With Ziad Barre out of the way, power struggle emerged between two warring clans led by these two men. Hundreds of thousands of Somali civilians were killed or wounded before Mahathir Mohamad declared himself President of the Republic. Conditions worsened, with an estimated 350,000 Somalis dying from disease or starvation by 1992. It wasn't long before the United Nations stepped in, approving the military mission Operation Restore Hope. It was led by the United States, but also involved a number of international forces, including Pakistani and Canadian troops. Canada's military mission in Somalia began on December 3, 1992, and involved about 1,400 Canadian troops, a helicopter regiment, and a supply ship. Some of the Somali warlords resented the presence of foreign troops and frequently attacked relief convoys and rebuilding efforts. In March 1993, two Somalis were shot in the back by Canadian soldiers while attempting to break into the base, a common occurrence at the time. One of the men, Ahmed Aroush, died. But here's where Somalia started to become the death of Canadian humanitarian missions there. A week after the death of Ahmed Aroush, 16-year-old Shadane Arone was captured. He was tied up, blindfolded, punched, beaten with a metal bar, and burned with cigars for hours. All the Canadian troops who were in earshot of Aroush's screams ignored it. He died in custody. Soldiers involved in the torture of Arone took trophy photos of the abuse, a horrific series of pictures similar to those that led to the American military scandal at Abu Ghraib in Iraq a decade later. The story began to come to light just days after Arone's death, when one of the Canadian soldiers involved tried to hang himself with shoelaces in his cell after being arrested for his part in the torture. Master Corporal Machi suffered brain damage in the botched suicide attempt and was declared unfit to stand trial. A total of 8 soldiers would eventually face court-martial, but just 4 were convicted. One of them was found guilty of manslaughter and torture and sentenced to 5 years in prison, but he served just 2 years before being released. Did the sentence match the crime? Let us know what you think. Send your comments and suggestions on our YouTube page. I'm on Twitter @Ali_Mustafa.